So if you are leading a team, running a project, or just, carrying any kind of significant organizational weight, I'm sure you understand this feeling.
Mhm.
It's that quiet, persistent exhaustion. You feel overworked, stretched thin.
And deep down, you're carrying a burden that was never meant to be carried alone.
Exactly.
That exhaustion is really the universal tension of modern leadership. And today, we're doing a deep dive into a source that argues this feeling. It isn't just a side effect of a busy life.
Okay.
It's actually a symptom of a fundamentally flawed mindset about leadership itself.
Okay, let's unpack that. The source we're digging into today is from Chris R. Velasquez. It's called Mentors Multiply Influence and Impact.
Right? How great leaders build leaders, not just results.
And the author argues for this massive, really transformative vision of leadership, one that shifts how we even measure success.
Completely. It moves it away from your personal achievements and puts it squarely on the purposeful development of other people.
The core conviction here, then, seems to be that real lasting leadership isn't measured by what you get done.
No, not by the tasks you complete or the milestones you hit on your own. It's measured exclusively, he says, by the quality and quantity of the leaders you raise up.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically break down the blueprint the source gives us.
Yeah, for shifting from what he calls additive leadership
Where you just keep adding more to your own plate.
to exponential multiplication. We want to give you the methodology to build a legacy that actually outlasts you.
So let's start with the crisis. The book says every leader eventually hits this wall, a quiet shift.
It's that moment where you realize that measuring your impact by just efficiency and, accomplishments,
Mm.
it doesn't tell the whole story anymore.
It's maturation moment.
Exactly. The question changes. You stop asking the immediate results-driven question, how much can I achieve today?
And you start asking something much bigger.
A much more profound question. What will remain when I am no longer the one leading this? And if the answer is nothing, well, you have a crisis.
And the source points out that the modern world, it's almost designed to encourage that kind of fragility.
House.
We're constantly seeking influence that shines bright but fades fast. We are, and I love this phrase, intoxicated with influence.
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating here is the distinction the book draws between reach and inheritance.
Okay.
We live in an age that has completely mastered reach. I mean, we can broadcast a message globally in an instant.
Right, but we've neglected inheritance.
We have. When your influence is just built on visibility and your own charisma, it's fragile. Leaders burn bright and then they burn out.
And the organization just stagnates because no one else was trained to carry the weight.
Precisely. Which leads us to the core thesis of the whole thing.
Mm.
The huge contrast between the achiever and the multiplier.
So the achiever, they're the ones asking, how can I accomplish more faster?
Yes, their focus is self-centric. They're building followers who depend on them.
But the multiplier takes a totally different perspective.
A completely different question. The multiplier asks, how can I empower others to accomplish more than I ever could?
That's the key.
That is a key differentiator. And that shift in questioning, that's what builds other leaders, not just, loyal followers.
It's a redistribution of responsibility.
And ultimately, it's a massive de-risking strategy for the whole organization.
I feel like we need to pause here for a second because this is not easy. Shifting from an achiever to a multiplier, that involves a real trade-off, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, if I'm focusing on multiplying others, my immediate personal output might actually drop in the short term.
That's 100% right. And that's the first barrier leaders face.
Yeah.
It's this perceived loss of control and efficiency.
So the achiever sees mentoring as time away from the mission.
Right. But the multiplier sees that exact same time as the single most mission-critical task.
Because they're building the future capacity of the entire team.
The entire organization.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a classic case of delayed gratification. You slow down the sprint to make sure you can actually win the marathon.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the source stresses this crucial point. Leadership without multiplication is incomplete. But, and this is the big one, multiplication without intentional systems is impossible.
So you can't just stumble into it.
You cannot rely on charisma or accident. You have to build an organized pipeline for developing people.
That makes perfect sense. If you're just relying on personal charm and hard work, the second you step away for a vacation or a new role, the whole thing just collapses.
And that's where you get what the source calls Bottleneck leadership.
The bottleneck. I think we all know a leader like that.
Oh, absolutely. The person who needs every single decision, every critical email, every sign-off to go through them.
They become the single point of failure.
They do. And they aren't trying to be malicious, usually. They sincerely believe they're just being responsible.
But really, they're hoarding influence.
And crippling the organization's ability to grow.
So if systems are the key, where does this multiplier idea draw its, I guess, its foundational structure from? It feels like more than just a management theory.
It is a philosophy, and the source grounds it deeply in what it calls the biblical pattern.
Okay.
It asserts that successful, enduring movements, whether they're secular or spiritual, they operate on this principle of succession. They don't build dynasties of individuals.
They build lineages of leaders.
Yes. Leadership is framed in a relay, not a spotlight.
I really like that analogy, a relay, not a spotlight. So for our listener, maybe in a startup or a nonprofit, how can they sort of strip away the theological wrapping but keep that core principle?
You just focus on the mechanism, not the mandate. You look at the historical examples provided. Moses and Joshua, Jesus and the 12, Paul and Timothy, and you see this deliberate long-term investment in successors.
Walk us through one of those, because they really do illustrate the difference between just managing a project and actually launching a movement.
Well, take Jesus raising the 12. He spent the vast majority of his ministry preparing other people to take his place.
He wasn't maximizing his own immediate output.
Not at all. He was maximizing their future influence. He was intentionally creating redundancy in the system. And then Paul's letters later on, you can see his obsession wasn't with his own success. It was all about training Timothy and Titus to continue the work.
And he even tells them to train others in turn.
Constantly. Which leads directly to this core concept the book calls legacy over longevity.
That's a really crucial distinction. We often think of legacy as, the things we leave behind, buildings, money, projects we completed.
But the source completely redefines it. Legacy is not just leaving something behind when you're gone.
It's leaving someone.
Someone prepared to build on what you began.
Yeah.
And maybe even surpass you.
And that is where the ego management comes in, right? The source frames this idea of being surpassed as a leadership mandate. It says followers are expected to do even greater things. That sounds incredibly difficult for an achiever, someone who ties their identity to being indispensable.
It requires deep, deep humility. When you switch to the multiplier mindset, you realize your ultimate success isn't defined by how indispensable you are.
It's defined by how quickly your successors become better than you were.
Exactly. If you are still the best person on the team 10 years from now, you failed at multiplication. The achiever feels threatened by a talented subordinate. The multiplier is overjoyed.
Okay, so the mandate is clear. Multiplication is required for lasting impact, and it has to be systematic. But how? How do we actually create those systems?
I'm glad you asked. The book gets very strategic here. It moves multiplication beyond just inspiration and into a scalable, repeatable process. It outlines 3 critical movements.
Well, let's walk through them. What's the very first step in this process?
The first movement is seeing potential. This is all about the ability to identify nascent leaders.
So spotting talent.
But it's about learning to look past the surface level charisma. It's about focusing on teachability, on character, on hunger. The source uses the analogy of Samuel identifying David, a completely unexpected choice, right? A shepherd boy his own family overlooked. Multipliers look for the diamond in the rough, not the already polished candidate.
Okay, so you're scouting for the right raw material. Once you see that potential, how do you shape it?
That's the second movement, shaping character. This is the patient, sometimes slow work of formation.
And this is crucial because
Multipliers know that skills can be taught pretty quickly, but character is what sustains a calling, is what prevents those spectacular public failures we see all the time.
So how does a multiplier intentionally shape character? That can sound a little, nebulous.
It's not nebulous at all. It's about an intentional curriculum. You actually design experiences that test integrity, that reveal how someone holds up under pressure. Look at the example of Jesus again. 3 years of constant close formation before he sent the disciples out. It wasn't just delegation. It was intentional, high-contact training in their personal lives and in their mission.
Okay, so potential is seen, character is shaped. Then comes the hard part, letting go.
That's the third movement. Sending with authority. This is true empowerment, not control.
And how do you do that well?
A multiplier releases leaders intentionally. They don't just let them drift into new roles. This means delegating with total clarity, providing all the necessary resources, and then publicly affirming their authority.
Because if you send them out but keep checking their work every hour...
You haven't empowered them at all. You've just given yourself more work.
Yeah. Now, to make this practical, the book provides a bunch of actionable tools to turn this mindset into a real methodology. Can you give us a taste of one of those?
Yeah, let's focus on the skill transfer blueprints. This is just a really effective way to delegate complex things without sacrificing quality. The blueprint follows a simple 3-step cycle.
Okay.
Step 1 is, I do, you watch. The multiplier demonstrates the whole task, explaining the why behind every decision.
So it's a full walkthrough.
A full walkthrough. Then step 2, we do together. The apprentice takes the lead role, but the multiplier is right there, coaching, providing immediate feedback.
And then the final step.
Step 3, you do, I watch. The apprentice handles the whole task, the multiplier steps back, allows for full ownership, and critically accepts the risk that there might be a minor failure.
That structure really institutionalizes the process of letting go, and it helps the apprentice feel supported, not just thrown into the deep end.
Precisely. The book also mentions tools like mentorship maps, leader scout checklists, and these legacy leadership roadmaps, 3 to 5 year plans to ensure continuity.
It takes the guesswork out of succession.
It does. And this whole systematic approach must have massive organizational benefits, especially for that burnout we started with.
Absolutely. For organizations, multiplication is a cure for stagnation, for high volunteer turnover.
Yeah.
When you adopt this mindset, responsibility gets shared, growth becomes continuous, and the organization's identity becomes, well, generational.
You escape that bottleneck leadership trap. You guarantee the mission continues even when key people move on.
So it's not just about developing leaders, it's about organizational anti-fragility.
It's about building something that's truly robust. But the source is realistic. Every multiplier is going to face resistance.
What are the biggest hurdles?
They fall into 3 layers.
Yeah.
First, you have the internal obstacles.
Your own stuff.
Your own stuff. The fear of letting go, the ego that wants to be indispensable, and the identity crisis that can happen when you realize your value comes from building others, not just performing tasks yourself.
That's a big one. Then what's the second layer?
External challenges. So organizational constraints, limited resources, or maybe a team that just isn't mature enough yet to receive that authority.
And the third?
Cultural barriers.
No.
Environments that celebrate the individual hero, the charismatic CEO, the superstar performer, but they actively resist the idea of shared, decentralized leadership.
The culture is addicted to the one person who can save the day.
Right. But if the multiplier can overcome those barriers, the personal transformation must be profound.
Moving from that exhaustion of constantly doing it all.
To the fulfillment of investing in people. That is the essence of the stewardship mindset. You get your freedom back, you get renewed energy because you're no longer solely responsible for output.
We're responsible for capacity.
You are. The goal shifts from trying to hit every target yourself to cultivating a movement that builds something far greater, something that will truly outlast you.
This deep dive has really reframed what success in leadership even means. The multiplier shifts their focus entirely from personal achievement to generational influence.
They measure success not by their own growth, but by generational fruitfulness. They understand their role is to be a stable foundation, to provide the resources and training for the next generation to leapfrog their own contributions.
So if we synthesize everything we've talked about today, the greatest takeaway has to be this core truth. The greatest leaders do not shine the longest.
They ignite others until the light spreads endlessly.
And that leaves us with one final provocative challenge for you, the listener. If the source is correct, that your greatest work will be done through the leaders you raise.
What one tangible, specific step will you commit to taking this week to transfer a critical skill or empower someone? How will you ensure your influence echoes across generations?
And if you need a roadmap, just start with step 1 of that skill transfer blueprint.
Exactly. Just give them the chance to watch you lead.